Tyler is having the best summer before his senior year. He has a waiting job next to the beach with decent tips among other things. However, meeting his girlfriend Allison is the icing on the beautiful summer cake. She just moved to the area 6 months ago. When Tyler saw her, he moved fast and snapped her up before she got too acclimated. This romance has changed his life. The final week of summer is upon them, and she has Tyler doing yoga. After a good session, the couple stop at his best friend's smoothie truck where he teases Tyler that he is whipped. He later goes to pick up his little sister from football practice, and the kid complains about their mom not being present to watch her play. When they get home, there is only frozen food in the fridge, so he decides to make his sister some eggs. As soon as his mother comes home, he dips out with Gil to pick up Allison for a party. Upon their arrival, they are greeted by their other friend Lydia. She complains about their lateness as the place is already booming. The girls quickly separate from the boys, but Tyler can't keep his eyes off his girlfriend. Suddenly, he sees a guy rush over to Allison and gives her a hug, even lifting her from the ground. Loverboy gets protective and marches over to make sense of what's going on. Allison introduces the big hugger as Chase, who's only interested in why Allison is so sober. She quickly ends the conversation before moving away with her boyfriend. Tyler worriedly asks who the guy is, but she assures him that he's just a friend from her old city. He goes to grab her a soft drink, but Chase makes his way over and comments on Tyler's abstention from alcohol, but he alerts him that it's for Allison. Chase is dumbfounded, so he reveals that she was a party animal that drank and fornicated like a pirate back in San Francisco. He gets carried away commenting on how hot she is and insinuates that he has slept with her. Tyler restrains himself and even says it was nice to meet him, but Chase insults him under his breath when he leaves. Tyler makes his way to the toilet where he sees a girl standing next to it. He asks if she's in line, to which she confirms. He starts to have small talk with her as they wait. The girl reveals that her date ditched her, and he discloses that he got humiliated upstairs, so they are two peas in a pod. The two introduce themselves officially and stare at each other for a moment. Tyler asks Holly, "Who would ditch such an attractive lady?" She responds with the same sentiments about his situation. Their conversation ends when the guy using the toilet comes out and she enters. Later on, Allison notices that she hasn't seen Tyler for some time, and her friends comment the same. All the while, he sits at a more chilled part of the house, sulking at the fact he wifed up someone who belongs to the streets. Allison joins him, and he brings up what Chase revealed to him. He confronts her about her sleeping with Chase, yet on the other hand, he is confused as to why she doesn't want to give up the cat for him. He tries to call out Chase, but the guy has a smug smile on his face as he advises Tyler to chill out. Allison drags her boyfriend outside when he threatens him with violence. She alerts Tyler that his behavior is unacceptable and asks him to go home. He interprets it as she wants to get rid of him so that she can hang out with Chase. She starts to gaslight him, stating that if the cookie was the only thing he wanted, then she's disappointed in him. He doesn't fall for it and brings up the point that she's the one who kept secrets from him. Allison gets annoyed and ends the relationship before walking away. Tyler leaves the party with a wounded ego as he fights back his tears. He stops in his tracks when he sees Holly in a very nice car ready to leave. She alerts him that it's not hers before joking about the sad expression on his face. He discloses that he's just been dumped by his girlfriend, so she instructs him to get in the car. While inside, he alerts Gil that Allison dumped him, but Holly confiscates his phone. The undesirables hit the club where they dance and pop a few pharmaceutical products before things get very physical. Tyler wakes up the following morning in an unknown house. His phone is off due to low battery, so he gets some pants on and explores the mansion. He eventually finds Holly sitting in one of the living rooms looking at a few pictures. She gestures for him to sit next to her, and they discuss how great the previous night was. The girl alerts him that she's been house-sitting that whole summer. His attention is drawn toward the pictures she has taken of the place. The guy comments on how talented she is, which seems to get him some extra brownie points. Holly leads him to the liquor cabinet where she reveals that she broke into the house. The girl is not a house-sitter. They spend the day at the house enjoying each other's company. In the early hours of the following morning, Tyler excuses himself as he's worried that his parents will be asking about him. He comments on how special the time he spent with Holly was before leaving. Tyler finds his way back home and connects to the power, and is greeted with a flurry of calls and messages from his mom, Gil, and Allison. His ex-girlfriend is ready to talk, so he accepts the invitation before getting some rest. Later on, he meets her in front of her house where she explains that she understands why he might have acted out that night. She comes clean that she does have an experimental heavy past with a lot of mileage, but she has completely changed since she left San Francisco. Tyler alerts her that she should have been open and decides to get back with her. She explains that the reason she wanted to wait to give Tyler the cat was because her relationship with him means so much to her. The couple cements their reconciliation with a kiss and a promise not to keep secrets from one another. Tyler hugs her with a guilty look on his face because he has been a busy boy. The first day of being seniors is upon them, and the friends gather around an outside space. Tyler plants one on his girl and sees Holly from the corner of his eye, which causes him to recoil back like he's seen a ghost. Allison wonders what the problem is, but he just suggests that the gang should head to class. While in the lesson, Holly walks in and sits right next to him. He's worried, but he tries to hide it with a lukewarm greeting. She explains that her stepmom changed her vacation to a permanent stay. Holly comments on him getting back with Allison and asks if he told her about their summer thing. Tyler requests that they keep it confidential, to which she agrees. But the way she looks at him, I don't believe it's going down that way. Later on, during their break, his worst fears become apparent when Gil introduces her to their friendship group. She quickly assimilates into the gang, and Allison even gives her number to her for them to hang out that weekend. Holly alerts the group that she has some tickets to an event that night, so she invites them. Tyler is very worried at this point, so he opts not to go, but everyone else accepts the offer. He later messages Holly to meet her at a secluded place. When he arrives, she pounces on him and starts to kiss him, but he pushes her away, alerting her that that's not the reason for the link-up. Tyler notifies her that what happened over the summer was great, but he's back with Allison, so he can't pursue anything with her. Holly does not take it well at all, as she accuses him of using her and threatens that she's going to make him regret what he's done. Tyler looks at her with both horror and confusion. Well, I'm sure next time he will be careful where he chooses to hide his pickle, because he has made this girl snap. He later receives a message from Holly showing him that she is getting closer to his girlfriend. Holly also apologizes for getting mad earlier. The following day at school, Lydia comments that she tried to add Holly on social media, but she could not find anything. She lies that she erased it a year ago, but Lydia finds it strange. Allison resonates with it since she has a dark past too. The girls later go to Tyler's workplace to get some food. He joins them to see Holly sharing obscure pictures of her and his summer romance with his oblivious girlfriend. The gang head over to the beach after Tyler's shift, where Holly takes pictures of the couple, but he's not that comfortable. Allison probes further about the guy in her picture, so Holly starts to describe to the oblivious girl how she and Tyler met while looking at him lustfully. She even uses Gil as a prop to mess with his head. After that strange incident, they drop Allison home. But Holly gets out too and informs the lads that they have girl talk, which almost causes Tyler to have a heart attack. The young ladies bond in Allison's room. Holly even manages to borrow a top of hers, and they begin to talk about Allison's bedroom life with Tyler, but she reveals that they have not done the deed yet. She commends her and insinuates that guys just run away when they get what they want. Meanwhile, Tyler knocks Gil from cloud 9 when he confesses that he slept with Holly when he had broken up with Allison. He expresses his worry that she's now trying to play mind games by getting closer to the people he cares about. Tyler feels like there is something wrong with her. But Gil doesn't buy that narrative. However, he does advise his friend to tell Allison before it gets out of hand. He texts his girlfriend to see if Holly is still at her place, and she informs him that Holly is spending the night. The following morning, she wakes up first and stares at Allison while she sleeps. The crazy girl wears the top she borrowed and leaves without saying goodbye. Tyler wakes up to her standing outside his house. The guy rushes outside, confused at why she's wearing his girlfriend's sweater. Holly is more interested in coming inside to say hello to his younger sister. She falsely alerts him that she told Allison about their entanglement to mess with his head, before assuring him she didn't. Later at school, Tyler overhears a conversation with Holly's stepmother and a teacher. He follows her outside to get more information about his stalker. Turns out she lost her father recently, so she is feeling a bit lonely, but Tyler sees it as obsessive. Meanwhile, Holly overhears Lydia expressing her worries about her, so she deals with Lydia by giving her a smoothie which she spiked. This causes her to have a severe allergic reaction, so she is rushed to the hospital. Tyler tries to voice his theory that their new friend did it, but he holds his tongue. In the interim, Holly's stepmom confronts her about missing her therapist appointments and not taking her medication, but the girl indirectly threatens her with a knife. Soon after it is revealed that she has a shrine dedicated to Tyler, the girl takes things a step further by telling Allison that she is pregnant by the guy who showed her a good summer. Allison informs Tyler so that she can be with her new friend for moral support. One day, Tyler lies in his room and overhears his sister talking to someone. He starts to get worried and makes his way out, and to his horror, he sees Holly interacting with his sister. He has had enough of the games and aggressively escorts her to the other side of the street. She still tries to play the pregnancy card with him as she blames Allison for being in the way of their love. Tyler just lets her know that she was a mistake and knocks her to the ground when she tries to force her affection on him. She watches him leave as her lips bleed. That night, she makes her way to Allison's place and alerts the girl of her romantic relationship with Tyler. During that interim, Certified Lover Boy visits Lydia in the hospital, where he discusses his theory that Holly had something to do with her allergic attack. He confesses to having relations with Holly, and she too advises that he tells Allison. He meets her at the beach to tell her, but it's too late as the crazy lady has already dictated the narrative by telling first. Allison angrily breaks up with him as he attempts to explain himself. Holly tries to reach out to him, but he's not interested as he ignores her messages. Back at school, she sits next to Tyler in class with a smug look. Shortly after, the principal calls him and suspends him indefinitely because of Holly's false accusations that he assaulted her. While being informed, he finds out her full name and does some investigations, which reveal that she has shown this obsessive behavior previously and even attacked a girl as a result. He alerts her that he knows about her past. She hints at what's about to happen next. That night, Allison's parents leave her home alone to attend a function. Holly calls, pretending to console Allison before alerting her that she's in the house and then proceeds to kidnap her. Tyler feels like Holly is up to something, so he calls Gil to inform him that he's going to her house to check things out. During that interval, she has already transported Allison to her house. While the girls discuss Tyler's love, they are interrupted when a car arrives. She duct tapes her before going to investigate. Turns out it's her stepmother who tries to free Allison, but Holly suffocates her. Shortly after, Tyler sneaks into the house where Holly tries to recreate the morning after their passionate night. He plays along at first, but soon loses interest as he rushes around the house looking for his girl. He confronts her to let him know where Allison is. Blood starts to drip on him, so he looks up and sees his unconscious girlfriend tied up. As he loosens her down, Holly leaves to pick a gun up. Tyler wakes Allison up and grabs a fire poker for defense. As they leave, the couple come across her stepmom's corpse. Just as they get outside, Holly stops them at gunpoint. The couple plead with her, but when Gil joins them, she shoots at Allison, but it hits Tyler instead. This gives Allison an opening to stab her with the fire poker in retaliation. Soon after, the emergency services take all injured parties to the hospital. Later, a recovered Tyler celebrates his little sister's birthday with Allison back in his arms. Morale of the story: don't act impulsively. Also, be careful where you hide the cucumber. The next movie is called Against the Ice. Captain Einar traverses through the Greenland ice with his sled dogs carrying his partner Jurgensen. They arrive back at the ship where the crew quickly helps them inside because Jurgensen's feet are frostbitten. The explorers frantically jet around the ship to make preparation for the procedure. Young Iverson gives the captain some pliers which he sterilizes with heat. Jurgensen's toes are too far gone. He's given a drink as a sedative while the rest of the men hold him down. The captain proceeds to snip the affected toes as he screams. It's now Christmas Eve, 1909. The crew spends it on board their ship together. Jurgensen still needs some assistance getting around, but he is recovering. The ship chef presents the Christmas food as the crew gather to eat. As the meal comes to an end, Einar makes a toast to loved ones back home and the crew of the Denmark expedition who lost lives on their mission. He continues to debrief his men that during their last search, it was difficult to trace any signs of the vanished expedition. However, they did find a diary and a map of one of the men, which shows the location of the cairn left by the expedition captain, Mylius Eriksson. It has the final records of the unknown land. Iverson doesn't know what a cairn is, so they explain that it is a stack of stones that one can see from a distance. Einar announces another journey even further across the ice cap to retrieve the findings Mylius Eriksson left behind. The crew are bewildered because they thought they were heading back home. The captain explains the importance of their work, as without these findings, the north of Greenland could be lost to the Americans. They claim that the north is separated by a channel from the rest of the country and have laid claim to that separated land, but no one has proven that such a land exists yet. With his main man out of commission, he's looking for another crew member to volunteer to join him on the journey to verify the claims. He tries to sugarcoat it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The crew believe his word because once they leave on this journey, they are not likely to come back. The crew later discuss the captain's proposition while they complete their camp chores. It seems no one is willing to go. Upon inspection of the map, they compare it walking from Moscow to Rome looking for a stack of stones. Some of them have family to think about. Iverson is a big fan of the captain as he has read about his exploits before he joined the crew. But the longtime members know the captain, and they don't want to complete such a journey with him. Later on, Iverson approaches Einar and puts himself forward to go on the journey. The captain alerts him that no one else has volunteered so far. Thereafter, The crew watch on while the young man struggles to control his pack of sled dogs. The captain asks Jurgensen to go give him some advice. The second in command alerts him to take order of the dogs and warns him that out on the ice, each dog can pull 100 pounds of weight. When that weight has been depleted, that dog now becomes a burden, so he must shoot the worst performing dog and feed it to the rest. Therefore, he shouldn't become too attached to them. The captain calls Laub to hear his opinion on Iverson and if he is capable of making the journey. Although the boy still needs to improve his control of the dogs, he feels like the lad can do it. Later, the crew relax below deck, and they try to convince Iverson to reconsider since he doesn't have any experience in the Arctic. They warn him about the extreme cold and polar bears, but the young lad waffles on about his lead dog Bjorn as the crew teases him. Meanwhile, Jurgensen feels like he has let the captain down by not being able to accompany again. He expresses his worry about Iverson going with Einar since he is only a mechanic. The only reason he's on the trip is because their engine failed in the capital. Jurgensen advises his old friend to accept what they have achieved so far and go home after reminding him of his sweetheart Nadja, but the captain is determined to go. He gives the order that if they don't come back by August, they should go before the sea freezes again. The following day, the duo says their goodbyes to the crew before setting off. They soon hit their first obstacle when they are faced with steep iced pass, but with the help of their dogs, they manage to overcome it and set up camp for the night nearby. An excited Iverson waffles on while the captain tries to work. He gets frustrated and offs the light for them to go to bed. The two are now 26 days into their expedition. They make a quick stop while the captain maps out the next phases of their journey. Iverson starts singing a made-up song using their current situation as inspiration. The wind starts to pick up as they continue on, but they eventually stop to make camp in order to ride out the remainder of the storm. The following morning, the weather has calmed down. Einar melts some snow which he uses to coat the runner of the sled, creating a thin layer of ice which will make them move faster. They move off again with increased speed, and Iverson is having a bit too much fun. The captain notices that the dogs are smelling land, so tries to warn him to slow down, but it's too late. He loses control of his dogs and sled as he falls to the ground along with some of their supplies. Iverson holds on as he's dragged across the ground, but he's forced to let go as the dog yelp while they fall near the edge. Luckily, the sled gets choked, so they use a rope to climb down to recover it. Iverson notices Bjorn hanging from the cliff, so he tries to rescue him, but he loses the dog when the rope tears, causing it to fall. They manage to recover the sled. Iverson later does the calculation and reports that his mistake has cost them 2 weeks of dog food, half their tea, and 1 can of paraffin. When he tries to mention Bjorn as part of the losses, the captain blocks him, stating it's just a dog. He berates him for not following orders, which is a surprise as he has a Navy background. All Iverson can do is apologize. They continue from ice to land for some time. Iverson looks through pictures of some ladies he found on the ship to keep him sane. He shows the captain and reveals that he has named some of them in the picture. He asks the captain to also pick one, which he does, and names her Nadja after his beloved back home. Iverson jokingly marries the two, but it seems to have a deeper meaning to the captain. That night, he dreams of his woman, but is woken up by his current reality. The duo travel to a location that the captain marks as the spot, but upon their arrival, it really isn't the spot, so they are forced to look elsewhere. As their load starts to get lighter, Iverson has to off one of his dogs and feed it to the rest before they move again. They get to the next location, and that's not the spot either. It's day 84, and they are still looking. While Iverson does some maintenance on the sleds, the captain alerts him that they must make a course correction after studying the terrain and maps. Iverson points out that they are out of supplies and wonders when they will accept that their journey is over and return, but Einar cuts him off and alerts him that they will find Mylius Eriksson's cairn and make it back in time. He orders him to drop his sled as they will be using one from then on. The two keep trekking while searching for the landmark. They eventually find the cairn and rush over to it. Inside is a can of soup and some food, but the captain is more interested in the letter and map that confirms that Greenland is one. The duo celebrates with the soup and food. With this proof, the Americans can't claim any of Greenland. Now fully motivated, they begin to make the journey back, but they lose one dog during a storm. They make camp where Iverson scavenges its liver for them to eat, but they are unable to consume it because it's now poisonous. After some more traveling, Iverson scouts around their next rest area and comes across a seal. He prepares to shoot it, but the dog's barking scares it away to his frustration. He rushes back to camp after hearing some gunshots. Upon his arrival, he meets a couple of dead dogs. His attention is drawn towards Einar's yells and grunts. The captain is getting attacked by a polar bear. Iverson shoots as it tries to drag Einar and the sled into the water. It stops in its tracks, But the second shot causes the bear to collapse on the captain, breaking the ice around him as he falls into the freezing water. Iverson rushes over and pulls him up using the rope that was attached to him. The captain recovers in their tent. Iverson is astonished that only Einar's coat got torn during the incident. The following morning, their last dog also dies, so the captain burns their sled. They are to leave everything that's not absolutely vital to their survival behind. Traveling light is key to surviving the remaining 200 miles. Day 164, and the duo continue to proceed on foot, but with limited food, the struggle is real. The captain suggests they leave a cairn with the information, as he too is starting to doubt that they will make it. After making the cairn, they persevere and finally make it back to the ship. The two are happy to see the mast, but when they get closer, they are surprised to see that it's on land. The duo also notice that the ship has been gutted and the parts have been used to make a hut. The captain calls to the crew but gets no response. Looking at the accumulated snow around the entrance, they figure out that they have been left behind. Meanwhile, back in Reykjavik, Jurgensen and Laub are brought before the committee to explain why they left them behind. The crew has left enough food to last them a year. This will give them time to plan a rescue mission. They ask the two crew members why they let the captain travel into the Arctic with someone who has no experience. They don't really have a good enough answer that would warrant Niergaard spending more government funds on his mission. Jurgensen suggests that they put up a reward, but they dismiss that idea. 242 days have passed since they first set off. The two hold up in the hut hoping that the government will get someone to come rescue them. To help with the waiting, Iverson finds and repairs a phonograph for them to enjoy. One night, Einar has a nightmare that a polar bear destroyed their cairn, allowing the proofs to be taken by the wind. He wakes Iverson up and alerts him that they must go back to retrieve the journals and the proofs. He can't really complain, so they board up the place and pack up to make the journey. Before they set off, his assistant suggests that they leave a note, but the captain says no, because they will be back before a ship comes. On the 438th day, they make it back to the cairn, but they almost get a heart attack when they notice that it has been partly destroyed. To their relief, they find that the journal and proofs are still intact. By day 471, they arrive back at the hut to find it open. They cautiously enter to find a note stating that a rescue party came looking for them and found no signs, so they left. Iverson makes the most politest "I told you so" comment in history, but the captain takes a bit of the anger at himself on him. Einar takes out the rest of his frustration out on the sled while Iverson watches on. Back at the capital, Jurgensen pleads with Niergaard for one more attempt because he strongly believes they are still alive based on the reports. He tries to entice the official with claims that the captain must have found the proofs they need to shut the Americans. Niergaard alerts him that he can't do any more than the generous reward which still stands. Hopefully it will ginger some people to go looking. It is now Christmas again. The duo toast to their third one in the Arctic. Einar starts to lose his hold on reality when he begins to have intense vision of Nadja even talking to her. Iverson notices but gives the captain his space, but it all gets out of hand when he attacks his accomplice, thinking he's had an affair with his woman. He threatens to shoot him, but comes to his senses before doing so. Iverson moves the gun into their storage hut to prevent more incidents. The following day, Einar apologizes to him, but they are interrupted when they hear footsteps outside. They check the window only to find a polar bear. This one has come for revenge. They realize that their gun is not with them. Left with no other option, the two rush to hold the door as the beast tries to bust in. They begin to make noise which scares the bear away. They quickly dash out to retrieve their gun. On day 865, the duo are woken up by footsteps outside again. They are prepared to fight the bear this time. They run out and are surprised to find their rescuers waiting with Jurgensen among them. They return back with the proofs as heroes. With it, the Americans officially withdraw their claim to the land. Niergaard hosts a special commemoration for the duo, while Nadja proudly watches, bringing the movie to an end. The final movie is called The Green Knight. It all begins when Gawain experiences a rather rude awakening when water is thrown over his head by his lover, Essel. She alerts him it's Christmas as he grabs her. She drip feeds him his clothes as they start to flirt their way out the bar. She notifies him that she's going to church while he wonders where his boots are. A woman asks Gawain if he's a knight yet, to which he answers, no. He tries to get her attention by tossing a coin at her, which insinuates the kind of relationship they have. He leaves alone on horseback, but later meets Essel within the crowd of churchgoers. After teasing, he gives her a lift on his horse. He makes his way home, and from the looks of things, his family is well off. His mother asks him of his whereabouts the previous night, but he lies, telling her he's been to mass. From his smell, she knows better. He enters his room to quickly freshen up and already looks more respectable. He's surprised that his mother has not dressed up for the celebrations. She's not in the mood, so asks her son to go on without her. He arrives at the king's palace where the party is in full swing. Concurrently, his mother makes her way to a spiral tower where she begins to cast an enchantment on the king and queen. This gives her control of his mind, so she makes him call Gawain to his side. As they discuss, it is revealed that his mother is sisters with the king. His uncle apologizes for not showing interest in him and wants to use this time as an opportunity to build bridges. He asks Gawain to tell him a story from his life so he can know him better, but he doesn't have one to tell. The queen corrects him by adding "yet" to the end of his sentence, in hopes that achievements will come in the future. As the king stands up, Gawain's mother simultaneously puts on a blindfold and starts controlling his speech to the people gathered. She also starts to write a letter, while the other witches start placing items inside a stick circle. She seals the letter and places it in a skylight. It levitates before it bursts into flames as the king's speech ends. The embers of the letter fall into the circle and a plant sprouts out. The witches summon the Green Knight, and he appears at the palace, opens the hall doors while holding her letter when he enters. The human knights immediately draw their swords ready to attack, but the king halts them. He looks at his spiritual advisor who shakes his head, but he signals for the Green Knight to approach. The queen grabs the letter. Upon opening it, she's possessed and starts reading the contents of the letter. It proposes a friendly Christmas game. The bravest knight should step up and try and land a blow against the Green Knight. Whomever nicks him claims his axe along with its glory and riches. But the champion must bind themselves to these conditions. If he lands the blow, then he must seek the Green Knight in a year's time, at the Green Chapel 6 nights to the north. There he too will bend the knee and take the same strike in return. With the rules explained, the queen collapses and the letter burns. The floor is left open for someone to take the challenge, but none of the knights step forward. Gawain senses an opportunity to shine and steps forward bravely. The king gives his sword to him, which he uses to lump off the creature's head. Unfortunately for him, the Green Knight gets up and picks its head, reminding him again of the terms and conditions before riding off while laughing. With the ritual complete, his mother collapses with exhaustion. Back in the hall, the silence is broken with a round of applause for Gawain's bravery as the party continues. The axe is stored till the time comes. As the year goes by, word of the incident spreads through the land. A puppet play is even made about it, but it ends with Gawain losing his head. Essel asks if he's scared, to which he answers no. He has a portrait of himself drawn as he's a celebrity now. One night he gets into a bar fight when a drunkard tries to make light of him. After his brawl, he makes his way home, but to his surprise, the king is there waiting. As they discuss what he plans to do, the king advises him to go and seek the Green Knight out to complete the game. But he's hesitant at first, as he could be marching to his own death, but the king sees it as a chance for him to achieve greatness. Winter finally comes as he says his final goodbyes to Essel. She asks him if he's willing to marry her, but he doesn't answer. Meanwhile, his mother prepares for his journey by weaving him a girdle imbued with magic. She instructs him to never take it off as it will protect him. On the light side, the church priests also bless some items for him to take. After dressing up, he sets off on his journey. Essel gave him one of her bells as a memento. He holds it when he gets lonely. As he travels, he comes across a recent battlefield covered with corpses. While passing through, he meets a scavenger who comments on him looking like a knight, to which he denies. He informs him that he's just a traveler who's going to the Green Chapel. The scavenger claims to know the place and directs him to follow the yonder stream for 1.5 days. At the end, he will reach his destination. Gawain gives his thanks, but that doesn't feed an empty stomach, so the scavenger requests he shows some monetary gratitude instead. He gives him a coin before heading off. Gawain later finds himself in a wooded area as he moves through. He's confronted by a woman. After they awkwardly exchange greetings, she unsheathes her knife. He tries to reach for his sword, but he's halted by a man at bow point. This gives the duo the chance to close the distance and overpower him to his knees. As he pleads with them, the scavenger from earlier also turns up and starts to mock his cries. The situation finally starts to dawn on him. He has been set up. While his colleagues hold him down, the scavenger takes his girdle. A devastated Gawain asks if there was really a chapel, to which he answers that they are already in it. They strip the noble of all his valuables and tie him up. He watches as they ransack his belongings, breaking his shield. The scavenger takes the Green Knight's axe and takes a few swings before suddenly deciding to complete Gawain's quest for him. He jumps on his horse and races off into the woods. His confused colleague chase after him, leaving the noble man alone. Gawain uses this opportunity to cut himself free with his sword that they left on the floor. He runs through the forest till night falls, and he comes across a cabin in the middle of the woods. I would personally run the other way, but he decides to go in. He explores the place, calling out to its occupants, but gets no response, so he decides to get some rest in one of the beds. I don't know, but this kinda sounds familiar. He is later woken up by a lady who queries him on his reason for sleeping on her bed. He quickly gets up and apologizes profusely, explaining that he thought no one was about and only wanted a place to rest. The lady stops him from leaving, asking if her dad sent him, to which he answers no. He's just a lost traveler. She introduces herself as Winifred and informs him that she too has lost something and requests that he help her find it. Gawain is confused, so tries to touch her to confirm if she's spirit or human, but she berates him, as it's not becoming of a knight to be touching as he pleases. As they proceed to a spring, she explains that she was decapitated when she refused to be taken advantage of by a traveler. He threw her head in the spring, so she wants him to retrieve it. Gawain points out it's already on her body, but she's adamant that it's not. He accepts her request but wants a reward for his services, but she dismisses it. He dives in and retrieves a human skull. He resurfaces to find her gone but sees a fox watching him. The noble makes his way back to the cabin to find the lady. However, he finds her headless skeleton in the bed. He drops her head when it turns to a fresh one. It delivers a message from the Green Knight before turning back to a skull. He places the head back on the body, whilst morning light shines through the windows. Gawain notices that the axe has magically appeared in the middle of the room. He grabs it and carries on his journey, taking a stop at some cave systems to rest. While he tries to make a fire, the nobleman spots the fox following him, so throws stones to get rid of the animal. It still lingers around, so he decides to invite it in where they rest together. He carries on with his new traveling partner, until one faithful day, he slips and falls down a cliff. He later finds shelter at another cave with some mushrooms on offer, so he decides to eat it. Soon after, he vomits it back out and starts to hallucinate. He even sees a silhouette of the Green Knight. Day breaks and he makes his way through a marsh and old ruins before coming across a group of giants traversing a valley. Gawain calls out to one for a lift to get to his destination quicker, but the giant rather tries to grab him. The fox comes to his defense by howling, which stops the giant in its tracks. The rest also stop and respond with a howl of their own before setting off. Night falls, and an exhausted Gawain stumbles through the rain as the fox directs him to a castle. He knocks on the door and collapses on the floor as the door opens, where the lord of the castle welcomes him. The following morning, he wakes up to the lord softly singing while pressing his forehead with a cloth. Gawain gets startled, but he's reassured that he's safe and among friends. He asks of the day, so the lord alerts him it's the 21st of December, even addressing him by name. He gets spooked that he knows his name, but the lord claims to know more about him than just his name. As they make their way to breakfast, the lord explains that he will be going hunting, so he tells Gawain to feel free and rest. He introduces him to his lady, but Gawain is immediately taken aback by her beauty, as she looks just like Essel. As they sit to eat, it is apparent that they know his story as it has traveled far and wide. He notifies them that he will eat, then take his leave. The lord asks him to stay longer since the Green Chapel is less than a day's journey from where he sits. He notices an old woman with a blindfold sitting quietly at the table, which he finds odd but doesn't comment on it. He agrees to leave Christmas morning. The lord goes on his hunt, leaving him alone with the lady. They have some high-tension moments as they kind of flirt in her library. She asks for him to sit for a portrait, which she paints with the assistance of light. Later, the lord comes back with a boar for him to take home as a gift. That night, they all sit together over the fire to discuss the Green Knight. Gawain concludes that he's not from their world. The lord is more interested to know his motivations for going through all of these challenges, to which he answers, honor, and to be seen officially as a knight. One morning, the lady waits beside his bed as he wakes up. She asks him why he didn't come to her chambers the previous night and proceeds to tease him. He realizes that she has a girdle similar with the same magical properties as the one his mother made for him. She claims to have made it herself and asks if he wants it. Gawain gets a bit too excited while trying to retrieve it. She disappointedly looks at him and states that he's not a knight before leaving. He notices that the blindfolded woman was standing there the whole time. Sensing that she's definitely judging, he grabs his things and rushes out the castle. Gawain meets the lord in the woods, who's surprised to see him leaving. He is joined by the fox again on his journey. They reach a canal, which signifies the last part of the journey. The fox suddenly steps in front and warns him not to proceed, as only death and sadness awaits. The talking animal tries to dissuade Gawain, but the noble sacks it away before taking the boat to the Green Chapel. He's a bit early, so he sets the axe in front of the Green Knight and waits till the following day. When day breaks, the knight wakes from his slumber and picks up his axe. He reminds Gawain of their agreement. The nobleman confirms and takes the knee, ready to receive the matching blow, but Gawain flinches a couple of times as the Green Knight prepares to strike. He eventually cowers and escapes back to home. Events of his life after his return start to play. He becomes king as a result of his lie that he faced the Green Knight. He later has a child with Essel but takes his son and rejects her. He marries a more suitable bride. Years pass by, and his son dies in battle. He later has a baby girl with his wife. His life story ends with his castle under attack whilst everyone leaves him. As the invaders breach the doors, Gawain removes his girdle, which causes his head to fall off. Turns out, it was a vision of his life if he doesn't take the right path. Realizing his mistake, he removes the girdle, which offers him protection in order to receive the blow in full. The Green Knight commends him for his bravery, finally acknowledging him while stroking his face. He runs his finger across Gawain's neck, saying, "Off with it." That brings the movie to an end.